So I had some fun with this over the weekend, and now I'm starting to get used to it. It's time to step it up, pull it apart, and get it going quicker. The main problem is I just don't have much room in this battery tray, because the standard motor only needs a 3 to 4S pack. They don't need to make it any bigger. So a 4S pack, it's 6000 milliamp, fits in there nice, but it's not very fast at all with that motor. That's a 1300 kV motor. I've been running the 6S pack, 2600 milliamp. It fits in there good, getting about 4 minutes runtime out of that. But I want to get one of these 5200s in there, so double the size, 8 minutes runtime, even a bit more because you're not working the battery as hard. But it won't fit in there. And also I want to upgrade the motor, so I'm happy to keep with 6S, but if I go from say 1300 to 2600 kV, I'm going to increase the amps and reduce the runtime even more. So this one, forget about it, I'll just end up blowing it up. With the 5200, it doesn't quite fit. There's a gap in here, so I don't know. I guess I'm going to have to cut and shut it. It's held in the back here by sliding in there, and bolted down at the front. So I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do. Whether I cut it and glue a spacer in the bit joining the top and the bottom. Just not quite sure the easiest way to do it. It'd be nice if it was just 4 bolts and I could just space it up from the bottom here, but the way that goes in there to hold in there, it doesn't let you do that. So I've got to think about that. After I get that sorted out, it's got a 10 blade fan on there now. I mean, I might ask TP to make me up a 12 blade fan, but I'm definitely going to swap out the motor to one of their CM type motors, which is the car style motor that's high, got the high RPM bearings in it. I think these ones are good for like 60,000. The CM motors are good for 80,000, and the SCM motors 110,000 for 10 seconds. Now that wouldn't be an issue for this, because I'm sure there's no way I'll be able to run it flat out for 10 seconds if I have a much higher kV motor. But I'll sort the battery out first, maybe take it for a spin and actually GPS it, and then swap out the motor and compare it, do it properly. After a bit of thinking, I've just come up with another idea that might work. That might be if I can lower the base of this, like cut out the bottom there and get the battery lower, so I can still use the same cover and have it looking original. The top of this comes off. If you're patient, pull all those screws out. And it looks like there is maybe enough room to the bottom there to have the battery under the cover if I drop it down like 10 mil, 15 mil. So I'll pull the top off and I'll see what I'm working with. Well, you can't really pull it apart easily. It's only screwed on up to here, and then it's glued along here. So I might be reluctant to go too far into doing that. It's got foam on the inside there though, at least. Oops. At least you know it's not going to sink. That's a good thing. So it's filled up with foam. Don't really want to ruin that. So what maybe my other option, which I didn't think of, is to have this all the same here and just cut the top out with just enough room for the battery. Just cut it out, lift it up, and then make some kind of join from the top to the bottom. I think that's what I'll do actually. That'd be the easiest way to do it. The actual problem is these batteries are higher rather than they are wide. If I could fit it in that way, it's actually low enough, I think, to get underneath there. So my servo's in the way. So now I've just had another thought, and that's relocating the servo. If I didn't have that in there, I wouldn't have to do anything with the lid, which I really don't want to cut it up. So I might look at taking that out and putting that somewhere else. I'll pull it out and see if the battery fits in there first without the servo, and if it does, then I'll figure something else out. So yeah, if I cut these off, those two mounts there, the battery will fit in there, and that will be low enough. So that will sort my battery thing out. Now to move the servo, I mean, all it's doing is that, just, forward and back like that. So there's no reason I couldn't, like, put it somewhere else and do exactly the same thing. Something like that, and still moving, and I just have to space it down. But if I can put it there, I might as well put it. If it'll work there, it should work back in here. So what I do is figure out a way to mount the servo in here, upside down, and just raise this up, get to the arm there, and hopefully it fits in there. So I'll fit one of these nice 20 kilo waterproof jobs in there. I don't know if these Spectrum things are waterproof or not. They may well be, but being a plastic gear, it may not be strong enough, because I'm actually not sure if it won't drive straight because the servo isn't strong enough to keep the blade straight when it's spinning fast. So if I'm going to have a motor that's going to be spinning twice as fast, I better have a servo that's stronger. Also, the other thing could be with the length of this. Perhaps that's flexing under load. I don't know. But if I'm only going to have it, like that far, she ain't going to flex. And with 20 kilos, it's not going to. It's not going to be able to push that. It'll break something else before that lets go. So I've got a couple of choices with servo mounts. I could cut this one down, use half of that, and bolt it into the side of here, or use this normal type. That's another option. Either or is going to work exactly the same, really. So I'll work on that. Okay, so I've mounted the servo in here. Put a couple of bends in a new rod here. I didn't use the old one, so I can put it back together if I need to. Yeah, well, don't ever, with this stainless steel rod, don't ever bend it fully at 90 degrees or they snap every time. Ask me how. So managed to bolt it up in underneath here, and I don't think, well, it's not going to interfere with the motor, which is cool. And she should work fine. So that'll be bolted onto the part here. I've cut the bracket out for that was holding the other servo in there. That's giving me enough room to mount my 6S battery, like lying it over flat. So that's sorted. I'm going to run some water cooling to the speed controller. I've given it a pretty hard time, and it hasn't mattered at all. But I'm going to put some water cooling onto it. I don't want to be drilling any holes in the hull. So what I'm going to do is probably put a plate on here, and then drill and glue a plate on here with the same stuff that I glued these mounts in with. It's this super strong Celastic type stuff. So I'll put a plate in here, then I can drill into that plate for my water cooling, because when I upgrade the motor, surely it's going to need the water cooling. I mean, that speed controller may not even handle the motor I'm going to put in, but we'll just keep using it until it fails. Okay, so that's the steering sorted out, and that's my cooling sorted out. Just put this plate on there. I've got it above the bottom of the boat, so I'm not going to create any drag there. It'll also help with the bouncing. It'll help a lot. Should eliminate it totally. And there's my water cooling. So I just wanted a big surface for the glue. It's actually called T-Rex. It's like a silicon, a big surface for that to attach onto the boat rather than putting bolts in there. Plus I get the trim tab effect as well. So that's my cooling. Now I'm going to swap out the motor. I'm just waiting for my soldering iron to heat up. Had a 1300 kV 40mm motor in there. I'm going to one of their race motors for cars, which is a 3190, so 3200 kV. I don't think there's any chance I'll be able to run it on 6S with that much kV. It's more than double. So I may have, wasted a lot of time doing this servo just so I could fit the big battery in there, but so what? I mean, it took half an hour. So things are really adding up on this thing now. This is a $450 motor. These are worth about the same sort of money as well. And the actual boat isn't worth much more than that from brand new, so we're getting carried away, but that's what you do. Okay, so there she is fitted in there. These are a funny motor, these car motors. They don't have any, they don't step like the normal boat motors do. I think they're a 2-pole. The wires on these things are, rather than coming out all in one area, like near each other, they're separated. So obviously the inside of the motor is different. And it costs 3 times as much, so there's got to be something totally different about them in there. But the specs say it can run up to 110,000 revs for 10 seconds, and on 6S I think I'm going to be something like, I don't know, I haven't worked it out, I don't know, 60,000 or something like that, maybe 70, maybe 80, but it won't be any more than that. So I'm not going to be doing anything in the way of working the motor to its limits, that's for sure. I think it's more like a 8 or 10S car motor at 3190 kV, which is just crazy stuff. The amp draw isn't that much. They're only saying it's like 140 odd amps maximum amp draw, and surely just turning the fan isn't going to be drawing too much compared to whatever a car does with the gearing and stuff. The only other thing I've done is just made up some longer extensions for these, because it was a pain having the battery this way with the wires coming out here and bunching it all up here. So everything's nice and level, everything's the right length there. I've used some 8 gauge wire instead of 10, but really the weak link is this. It's not going to be my 5.5mm terminals, or my, even the 10 gauge wire, because that's all the battery has on it anyway. So I got no problems with anything. This might let go. It's now water cooled. At least I'll know if it's going to let go before I even go to the lake, so I can just test it here and see what it does. Just going to plug it in on 3S and just get the rotation right. Should be 50-50 chance whether it's right or wrong. How am I going to hold the phone and do this? Okay, you can't see that, but I had that leaning against me, and she's definitely blowing the right way. So for once I got the wires the right way around. Bloody miracle. Okay, so there she is back together. Just going to fire her up for the first time. 6S pack can fit under the cover, which is the main reason we did half of this. It's pretty loud. Shit, I'll turn that on yet. Let's see if the steering is going to work for me. Oh yeah. That's good. Pull the trigger. Holy fuck! Oh, that blew so much air at me it hurt. Alright, we'll take it outside and see what it does.